Welcome to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you burn fat, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the WHOLESTIC METHOD. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey everyone, it's Debbie Potts, the host of the Low Carb Athlete, and I am very, very excited to finally have Dr. Ben Lynch on my show today. I've been waiting months to have him on, and we finally get to talk today about his research, his information on seeking health and how to optimize our health, and his book, Dirty Genes. If you have not read his book, you must get it, especially after this podcast interview. I read it twice a year ago, and I'm starting to reread it again, and it's covered with pages folded over, my little orange tabs in here, and really, you gotta look at your genetic profile. I find it's so important to look at your 23andMe or Ancestry DNA. Get your raw data from that program. Take that raw data and upload it into Dr. Ben Lynch's program. I'll put the link in the show notes on seekinghealth.com and enter it into the StrateGene report. It's worth, I think it's like $50, $60. It's worth it. And I used my raw data from 23andMe about a year ago and took all these different sources of genetic analysis, including Genetic Genie, this company called Arivel, DNA Fit, and StrateGene, of course. And then I also just put it in the GenoPalette program. I'm just really interested in seeing if it's consistent, because I would think my genetics should say the same thing, which SNPs I have, and how I need to optimize my health. As you all know, I struggled with chronic fatigue from excess chronic stress in my life, stressors, and that stressor was overtraining, pushing the envelope too much every day, and living life as a race, and getting up at 3:34 in the morning so I can get more in the day, sacrificing my sleep. I wouldn't get home until 7:30 at night because I would get to yoga class at 5:30 and just did way too much. And my mission with this podcast, with my health coaching program that I do with individuals online, is really to help you avoid getting down that rabbit hole, not letting yourself get so broken and burned out that 8 years later, I'm still showing low hormones, my cortisol, my DHA, my estrogen. I just got my panels back, my oxidative stress markers. I'll do another podcast episode going over my results and using my own self as a case study to show you how FDN practitioner as myself takes all this information, my health goals, areas of opportunity, complaints, and put it into a program to figure out how to heal and rebuild myself, because no one could do that for me before, because everyone just gets lab results and treats the symptoms and not really look at the whole picture and the root cause. And I really think the information you can get from Dr. Ben Lynch's book, Dirty Genes, and how to, clean your genes, as we will talk about, is really important. And, I started going down this road because I didn't understand why was my lifestyle causing me to have internal breakdown and burnout at a cellular level, and all these other people could sustain that crazy lifestyle and that schedule of training for Ironmans and just doing off season from Ironman. We're doing 50K trail runs and then doing marathons and half marathons as your recovery. So it's kind of a messed up world in our type A endurance world, but we live life more is better until you're broken, and then you have to dig yourself out of a hole. And I look at my genetic markers, and I have SNPs for MTRR, MAOB, BCO1, VDR, and APOE. I'm a CC. So we're going to kind of look at what that means. I'll kind of go over that in a follow-up podcast. But for me, it's trying to explain all that in my own program to my for my own process of healing. Just like MTHR, when I put it in Genetic Genie, kind of gave you some information. My SNPs in these genes, the VDR, MAO, MTRR, that kind of told me some information. And the ones that are heterozygous, how do you say that, mutations, and those are written up as well. And so it kind of gives you a little more information. For example, both reports, I was, the red risk for gene mutations. The VDR is a vitamin D receptor. So low or normal vitamin D values often seen with these people with this enzyme. Vitamin D stimulates enzymes that create a dopamine. And then we get more information from that. The other genetic marker, let me scroll up, MTRR. I had a gene mutation, and that is interesting because that's a combination of MTR and MTRR mutations can deplete methyl B12. And so, it's really important for the methylation cycle to have that B12. And I've been needing to supplement with it. And I just did my lab test with the Dutch hormone panel. It did measure one of the markers on B12, and I was very low in B12. So you correlate that information with my other GI panel. I just did a blog about my retest and my pathogen, parasite, or bacteria infection is H. pylori that's in your stomach organ. So that's going to impact my ability to break down protein. Protein makes into amino acids. Amino acids help make neurotransmitters. So you see this connection. So if I have this internal chronic stress and inflammation and causing this poor digestion of protein, also my metabolic assessment lab test said I was low or poor at protein digestion. So it was a +2 in this metabolic assessment. And I had very elevated red zone in my oxidative stress, which can be a result of stress in your gut with like H. pylori chronic stress with poor protein digestion. That's going to overload the liver, excess exercise, all of that can cause oxidative stress, and that's going to damage mitochondria. So you can kind of see why I, on a personal level, am curious about mitochondria function and methylation cycle, supporting all that with the cofactors of, as I've been talking about with Dr. Sarah Myhill, and really trying to put all this information together because I think it's something we all need doing. And this is what I'm doing in my coaching program with clients, is why the program costs, $2,000 for 3 months of coaching, but I'm working with you daily, and then I have a weekly phone call, and I'm taking all this lab work and putting it together because it is a lot of work to assess all this data and make sense of it all for you as an individual. But talking about the mitochondria and how genetics are impacted or impact your mitochondria is really interesting. And these other labs that we do in FDN, as I said, metabolic assessment, the GI pathogen test, your Dutch hormone panel, food sensitivity tests, and all these other things, really putting genetics into that puzzle and into your deep investigative case that we run. I think it gives us a lot more clues of what we need to support in supplementation, lifestyle habits, and nutrition. So, for me as an individual, I wondered why I struggle more than other people and tend to have this breakdown, and have had a long time getting better. But if you have a chronic internal stress that you don't know about, as H. pylori that hides in your stomach organ, I don't really have any symptoms except for fatigue and not able to digest protein very well, and that's indicated on my other labs. So it all correlates together. So figuring out the supplements and my protocol to help heal and rebuild is really important to get that individualized. But the genetic reports give me a little bit more clues of what my body at genetic level needs support on. So if I have more genetic SNPs, and as I said, the MTRR, the MAO is a critical enzyme involved in breaking down the neurotransmitters of serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine. And that's an important part to support as well. So if you have these genetic variants, it's really important to correlate that with all your labs that we run, functional labs as FDN practitioners, and then figure out what supplementation you need, and perhaps, looking at your nutrition, what you're eating. Are you getting enough digestive enzymes and HCl support? If you don't have H. pylori, if you have H. pylori, you cannot take HCl supplements, which I have been doing the last few months, which caused probably H. pylori to repopulate in my body. Scary thought. But anyways, we're going to talk all about this with Dr. Ben Lynch, and this will be kind of a 3-part series of podcasts to dive into dirty genes. And I'm going to use my case as an example of, if you look in his book, you can look up each gene, and like the MTHFR, methylation masters, a whole chapter, the DAO, oversensitivity to foods is a chapter. And then he gives you kind of, if it's dirty, if your genetic marker is dirty, how do you know? So he'll give you some information on that. It's a really fascinating book. So I guarantee you will love it. I'm just flipping through it. And then the last part, how to clean your genes protocol, is a lot like my holistic method. But, you got to sleep, breathe properly, exercise moderately, really focus on that part. I think a lot of us athletes do too much and don't recover enough. So we're not the ones that need to exercise more. We need to exercise less and more efficiently. Eating right to nourish your cells versus satisfying cravings. He talks about sweating, using infrared saunas and air filters, filtering your water, being, clean without having the chemicals, the scents like Febreze and all that, or environmental toxins, avoiding those. Interacting with loved ones and friends, a little more challenging right now with our coronavirus going on, and experiencing life. And I keep saying, life is a journey. It's just an experiment. It's something you just keep finding new things and growing and, learning as you go. So enjoy this show. Let me know your questions and I'll follow up with some more information. All right. So let me just tell you who we're going to talk about today. Dr. Ben Lynch is known in my world in nutritional therapy and FDN. He's been a big speaker, but we're going to talk about his book, Dirty Genes, of course, and StrateGene, supplements from Seeking Health. But how does he know everything? He is one smart guy. Dr. Ben Lynch is the best-selling author of Dirty Genes and the leader in the field of nutrigenomics. He's the president of Seeking Health, an innovative company providing supplements, courses, and tools designed to help people overcome genetic dysfunction and optimize health. After earning a Bachelor of Science in Cell and Molecular Biology, that's why he's so smart, from University of Washington, right here where I live. Then he obtained a Doctorate of Naturopathic Medicine from Bastyr University, which is near me as well. Then he went on to be on the Board of Trustees and lives in Seattle with his wife and 3 sons. So he is one busy guy. So let's dive in, talk about dirty genes, how we can keep them cleaner, and what we can do to optimize our health from a cellular level and working with meeting our body where it's at. Okay, I have a lot of friends that are jealous that I get to talk to Dr. Ben Lynch today, a nutritional therapist and FDN practitioners. Everyone loves Dr. Ben Lynch and your information and dirty genes and Seeking Health products and everything you're doing with StrateGene. So thank you for coming on the show today. I know you've been super busy trying to help others with your education on the coronavirus and how we really can be healthy. So I'm excited to kind of get your knowledge about what's going on in the world and how we can make ourselves healthier at a cellular level, looking at our genetics and everything you do.
Awesome. Great to be here, Debbie. And cool that we're pretty much neighbors.
Yeah, I know. That's what I thought. It's so funny. You're just next door.
Yeah.
So my focus has always been optimizing health, athletic performance, longevity for the endurance athletes. We put a lot of stress on our body, and my background kind of led me diving deep into your book, and I need to read it a third time because there's so much information there. Why some people don't feel as good as other people when they're doing, say, I did 15 Ironmans, I did multiple marathons, and then suddenly one day I was broken. So since 2013, I've been on my own journey, wrote a book, Life is Not a Race, and now I'm just trying to educate others to avoid burnout and breakdown. And putting in the genetic part of it is so important. And just, that's why I find it fascinating looking at your, dirty genes and what's fast, what's slow. I don't think enough people, especially in the endurance athletic world, really learn how to optimize their health for performance and longevity. So talk about what is, genetic. We should all know already epigenetics, but talk about kind of dirty genes and we'll cover the basics.
Yeah, well, first of all, yeah, your background and history is impressive, and I will say as a clinician, I've worked with a number of athletes, either high school athletes or elite athletes or just hobbyists. And one thing that I would find that was a consistent trend was basically those who were performing in sports would be depleting themselves, and I would oftentimes hear from I have a adolescent female who's should be having her period and she's not. And one of the first questions I would ask the mother or the father who was with her was, is she an elite athlete, or are you an elite athlete, or are you competing for your high school? It's like, oh yeah. And they were typically thin, fit, looking healthy, but they were so weak they couldn't menstruate. So, and doctors wanted to put them on birth control pills and other things to support their hormones. It's like, no, we're not doing that. Let's just nurture her and tone it down a little bit. So yeah, my background is environmental medicine with nutritional biochemistry, and then it led to genetics for various reasons because I wanted to optimize the lives as you're focused on the individual. And dirty genes is basically the concept where we all have genes. We have about 18,000 of them, and some of the genes that we have are performing optimally, and some of our unique set of genes, because we're about 99.9% identical, you and I, which is pretty amazing. But that 0.1 variation is extremely significant, and it allows us to be stronger and help perpetuate the species through natural selection and evolution. But the thing is with dirty genes is we can have some genes born with them that are slower than others, meaning they can't tolerate a huge load. So for example, you might be walking down the aisle in Home Depot and you're absolutely inundated by the smells of the pesticides and the fertilizers and the insecticides, and you get a headache. Meanwhile, you're walking with a friend, and you're like, oh, you're such a wimp. And they're blessed with genes that are working faster for removing those chemicals and smells. And yet you feel like you're a wuss, and this other person feels like they're normal or even stronger than you, whereas they're genetically designed to be able to handle that. Or on the flip side, they could be, you could have inherited a faster, healthier gene to handle all these chemicals, but yet it's not working very well because maybe you've inundated itself because you're using a lot of chemicals in your own home, or you've been exposed through other things in your life, or you have other heavy metal exposures, maybe through lifestyle and diet. So your gene got dirty. It was born just fine, but through your daily lifestyle and environmental exposures, it became dirty. And the cool thing is like the cover of the book. Looks like it's dusty. Yeah, you have it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, show it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So it's like the first cover was not good. It showed bites out of letters, and it was like, well, that doesn't illustrate what a dirty gene is when you bite chunks out of letters. That looks like the letters are broken. So the point of dirty genes was to demonstrate a cover where you can just wipe your genes clean. Things get dusty through day-to-day life, just like in your home, and you walk around your home, you vacuum and you dust and you wash your sheets. Same thing you can do with your genes, but we just don't know that until now.
Yeah, that's what I love. I could read this book over and over again. It's just so much information. And the thing is the genetic markers, and I did a little intro, and I keep talking for last few years about doing the 23andMe or, getting your raw data and uploading it. And a lot of people use that genetic data just to look at their ancestry background and where their relatives are. Like, I don't even care really about that. I want to know, how I can optimize my health and what I can do to make myself, healthier, happier, and live longer. And, taking that information, you have a program called StrateGene. Do you do the genetic testing through there? And I know you were updating it. So talk a little bit about that and then how we can apply that with the dirty genes.
Yeah, so StrateGene it stands for Strategic Genetic Analysis. So you can order a 23andMe currently and an Ancestry currently, and you can download your raw data from their services, from your test if you've already ordered it previously from their test. And you can buy a StrateGene report at Seeking Health, and then you can load in your raw data and generate a report. And then you get a report demonstrating the genes that my research team and I have identified as being very, very relevant, and then what you can do to take action and what the consequences can be about these genes. So we're coming out with a new updated StrateGene anytime now, but this virus just slammed us, and so it's delayed the launch, but the test is basically ready to go. But you'll be ordering your own StrateGene genetic test kit, like you would from 23andMe or Ancestry, and you would spit in a tube, send it to our lab, and we would analyze it, and then we'd send it, you'd have your own raw data, and we generate a new report that is a lot more SNPs, the pathways are updated, and we have a lot more actionable information from lifestyle, diet, the environment, of which dirties these genes, and what also things that you can do to clean them up. So we've really enhanced the what you can do about it, areas of there, and we've also expanded a lot of the pathways. So it does take it's not a genetic report for the everyday person, unless you are an individual like yourself, Debbie, who's really keen on optimizing health and wanting to learn and dive in. If you're looking for a genetic test that tells you what vitamin to take, or do this, do that quickly, you're not going to like StrateGene. If you really want to dive in and to learn how your body works, as to why you've been living with some chronic symptoms and ailments your entire life, maybe why you're susceptible to histamine, why you're susceptible to post-workout soreness, why you can't drink red wine, why you can't fall asleep, why you're more addicted to video games than your brother, your sister, StrateGene can really, really be amazing for you. And but it's going to take some time, and we do give you a ton of tools alongside of it, including the book, including the Dirty Genes course, and a lot of other videos that come alongside of it as well.
Yeah, and were you doing a practitioner training? I know I asked,
Yes.
last year, they were working on that, because I think, people as myself that are focusing on health coaching online and being a health detective as an FDN practitioner and a nutritional therapist, that this is other key part practitioners need to add in to our protocol to figure out, how we can really create an individualized program for someone based on their lab results we get, like the Dutch test, I know you talk about, and put this, because it's so important, like as you said, the COMP gene in their estrogen metabolism and just all this stuff with nutrition and low carb and how much fat and saturated fat. So I think it's so essential to really work with health coaches that know how to interpret this information and apply that to really individualizing a health optimization program for anyone, you but just people who want to live longer, healthier.
Exactly. And when you get the StrateGene genetic tests, you go to the StrateGene.me website, and there's a whole education area in there. There's hours and hours and hours worth of educational videos. Some are taken right from the conferences where I was presenting to health professionals. So you learn how to interpret the pathways and learn how genes interact with each other. Look, a lot of genetic tests tell you that, you might have a, predisposition to, male pattern baldness like this. I can look in the mirror and figure that out, or you're going to eat asparagus, and your asparagus, if you eat asparagus, your pee will stink. Thanks. I already knew that. Or you order a genetic test that says, you have MTHFR, take methylfolate. Not so fast. What if you're already eating leafy green vegetables? What if your homocysteine is low? What if your glutathione is low? Your electrolytes are low? Your B12 is low? So there's a lot of newness in this territory, and I was guilty of that in the beginning too. There's a lot of ignorance, and there's a lot of lack of education, and there's a lot of unknowns. Mm-hmm. But what I have learned over the years is that there's no fast and easy way to do genetics. You have to do it the hard way. And you have to look at how genes interact with each other. You have to look at how genes interact with the environment, and you have to look at how genes interact with vitamins and nutrition and food and all that together, all of it together. And if you don't do that, you're not going to get any benefit from genetic testing. So if you're one of those people who have ordered genetic testing and you're frustrated, I really do invite you to utilize StrateGene, because it could really turn the corner for you and really help you out.
Well, and it's affordable. And I think a lot of athletes, it's funny, they don't want to spend money on all the lab testing necessarily, because they, they'll drop 10,000 on a new bike, but to do anything to do with their health, it's like a fight. They're not going to do it until they hit rock bottom and get broken, as I did to myself. And then you start to go, okay, I probably should do something about what I'm doing to my body on the inside and figure out what's going on. But I think, trying to optimize for people that are all about peak performers and want to achieve their best in their sport, I think you can use this information too to maybe, enhance your training and work on recovery and repair, and maybe get some more data on how you can individualize your nutrition and all that as well, I would think, right?
100%. And, this StrateGene is when you get the report back, you get a lot of information about the histamine and neurotransmitters and your methylation cycle, your folate cycle, your glutathione pathways. And it's not really, focused on exercise per se or fitness per se, but its focus is on the general, some really key important pathways in your human body that span across everything that you do in your everyday life. So, there's a lot of genetic reports that talk about, your depression, here's a depression report or an anxiety report or an exercise report. And I do agree with those for to some extent, and we will be providing those in the future as well. But you cannot show those specific reports without understanding the underlying key pathways and key cycles of the histamine pathway, your folate, your methylation, your glutathione pathways. You can't. You have to understand the core fundamentals. It's like if you're learning a sport, you can't become a marathon runner until you start running and enjoy running. And you can't start enjoy running until you're somewhat fit or at least long distances. And you can't start running until you start learning how to walk. So you got to take incremental steps. And, can people see the screen at all with this?
I'll post the video on our YouTube channel.
Okay. So I'm going to hold up, here you go. The first one to see this. Nobody's seen this before. But you can see the highlighted there, possibly the glutathione.
Yes.
And you can see those speed bars, like this gene right here. This gene is really key at helping make your glutathione, and it's very slow in this individual. And then here's a gene that's really fast. So people who have a very fast gene right here in superoxide dismutase, if you're an athlete, if this gene is working really quickly, as it is in this individual, you can make a lot more superoxide or hydrogen peroxide, and that can lead to post-workout soreness. And so when I did a podcast with Ben Greenfield, and he recommends StrateGene all over in his new book, Boundless.
I have that.
Yeah, which is a great book. And like in the early part of this book too, he's, I went over his StrateGene report on his podcast. So tune into that one too. About drinking red wine and about just post-workout soreness, because those are two things that he was experiencing. And now he's better, and it helped optimize his training. So the new report will be even better.
Yeah, no, I did his Keon Coach program beta test a year ago, and just really talking about the StrateGene report is an essential part of really optimizing your health. And so the mitochondria function, I've been into researching that, is my other area, chronic fatigue and optimizing health from the mitochondria. How do you connect the mitochondria function with our genetic and our dirty genes?
Wow. A lot of ways, because the mitochondria are kind of the sentinels of everything. And when I started reading Robert Navio's work, the cell danger response, it really impacted me in a huge way. And so you can link to his cell danger response paper. Just find it on Google. You can get the free download PDF. I invite you all to read it and read it again and read it again and read it again. You think Dirty Genes is thick? Oh my. his cell danger response paper is thick. And basically what the mitochondria do is we always think of the mitochondria as our powerhouses, especially for fitness. We want to have more mitochondria. We got to keep them healthy. We got to, keep our glutathione on board and keep our antioxidants, but not so much, because exercise is a natural stressor on our body. And exercise actually makes more mitochondria because of the stress, the oxidative stress that we're creating from the exercise. But if you exercise too much, mitochondria are depleted of glutathione, and now they burn out, and you don't get that mitochondrial formation of new ones or repair. So there is that balance. So mitochondria, are constantly seeking out infections. They're seeking out, chemicals. They're seeking out nutrient density. They're the most concentrated amount of your number one antioxidant is found inside your mitochondria. And it's interesting, if you're an athlete, this is a quick and easy test. Is your eyesight getting worse?
Mm-hmm.
Because if your eyesight is getting worse, I don't know what part of the eye it is. It's the cornea or the iris, or I don't know what. My eye anatomy and physiology sucks. But it's some part of your eye where glutathione is super, super concentrated, because you have a massive amount of mitochondria in your eye, because it's constantly adjusting and refocusing all the time. It's working nonstop all day. And so the amount of glutathione that is needed in your eye is massive. So, and if it's low, your vision is going to get worse. And so that is, athletes, I would, post-workout soreness, delayed recovery, that's a warning sign, but so is your eyesight. And if you're like, oh my God, yeah, my vision, night vision is worse, that could be separate. But if your general vision is getting worse, it's not just an age thing. You're overdoing it.
Yeah, that's what I would say. One, I would say the Goldilocks effect. More is not better. You got to find the right amount for you as an individual.
Yes.
And two, don't blame the aging process. You want to get me angry and fired up, say you blame the aging process. Like, no, your body changes. You have to, work with it and supplement and take care of yourself differently than you did when you were 20 years old. It's not the aging process. It's just a journey of, making these little adjustments.
Yeah. Let me share you. Have you seen my Instagram TV video about the immune system and exercise?
I don't know if I saw that one. I watched many of them.
Yeah, this one, I'm trying to find the basic graph here. Here it is. So this lady reposted it. Let's see, I'll turn my brightness up all the way. So there's a bell-shaped curve. I know it's some type of rainbow, right?
Yeah.
You see the bell-shaped curve?
The red line?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, the red line is, that's someone's circle.
Oh.
So it's the black line. It's the swoosh.
Okay. Got it.
Okay?
Yeah.
So the start of that right here, the top part of the hook, let's say it's called a fishing hook.
Yes.
The top part of that is people not exercising. Okay. This is their immune. So the y-axis is the upper respiratory infection, and the bottom x-axis is exercise workload. So the risk of getting an upper respiratory infection when you're not exercising at all is here. If you are exercising moderately, say 60% intensity for less than 60 minutes, 45 to 60 minutes, you're actually boosting your immune system upwards of 45 to 50% increase in support of your immune system. Now, if your exercise intensity is stronger, your endurance athletes, you're weakening your immune system 2 to 6 times, and your risk for upper respiratory tract infections increases 2 to 6 fold. So I asked you, Debbie, were you getting upper respiratory tract infections as an endurance athlete?
Occasionally, yeah, it's been a while, but just post-nasal drip, is that?
No, that's more histamine. That's more histamine. And we can talk about that too. If you look at your histamine pathway, you get red in the face as an athlete, and it stays red for a long period of time. That's a histamine response. Exercise-induced asthma, that's also histamine response. Asthma can be histamine, but it's not only histamine. So there's a lot that I can provide you guys here and gals.
Well, I watched one of your videos the other day about the immune system with the coronavirus going on, and the importance for athletes right now not to overtrain. And it was such a good information you're sharing for athletes that are, over exercising already. But this is a time, just bring it down a notch, do things shorter, don't do the high intensity stuff, get outside, do low heart rate, maffetone type of max aerobic function heart rate, and just take it easy. Because so many people, I think, maybe they have more free time and the weather is better, they might just spend more time training. But just as you're showing, your immune system, I keep writing blogs and trying to podcast more about how stress is on, chronic stress, your immune system is down, and over exercising is going to increase that chronic stress, and how to, again, that Goldilocks effect of helping yourself stay healthy and improve that immune system is the gut health and lack of excess stress that we have so much going on.
Yeah. And you could also, what are other ways that are quick to notice? If you're getting, more warts, warts are a weakened immune system. It's the Hpv virus, which most of us have. And if your immune system is weaker, the Hpv virus wakes up and it's no longer dormant, and it starts replicating, and then warts start popping up. So, vitamin A could be useful in that situation also in reducing your workload. Another one could be cold sores. Maybe you're stressed out, on your lip. That's herpes simplex virus, the non-sexually transmitted one. But you have that your whole life too. My wife will get cold sores on her lip when she eats a bunch of nuts, seeds, and chocolate. But she'll also do it when she's really stressed out. So, she loves parties, she loves gatherings, but she really over stresses in the preparation for such things. So then she'll get herself a cold sore from that. So so those are some things to watch out for. Yeah. And when your immune system is down, those things will pop up.
Yeah, it's that balance. So let's talk about the Super 7 that you talk about in the book, and those main genetic markers you're looking at, the SNPs and the laundry list.
Yeah, so this was a very, very difficult book to write. My agent and the publisher, they said, okay, we want you to pick 7 genes that to write about. I was like, all right, okay, there's about 18,000 of them. So I sat down and made myself a list of, okay, what of the genes that just came right out of the top of my head. And I had probably 40 of them, 50 of them. I was like, okay, now what? How do I prune the list? And so what I did is I looked at, okay, what genetic genes out there are really heavily influenced by the environment, our lifestyle, our diet, in which genes also have a huge number of genetic variation in them and are common to inherit the genetic variations. So that's how I picked the 7. And at the same time, I narrowed that list down to probably about 20 at that point, or 30. So not a huge, I still need to get to 7 or so. So then what I did is I looked at, okay, I started writing the book and I got stuck. And then what I noticed is I missed an entire body system. Like I had no gene for digestion. I had no gene for the liver. I had a gene for detoxification, but not completely. And I only had 1 gene for neurotransmitter, and I had nothing for histamine metabolism. So, so what I did is I picked the Super 7 because they basically encompass not all the major systems in your body, but a lot of them. And so with these, if any one of these particular 7 genes are not functioning properly, you are struggling from an everyday common ailment, 100%. And these are the type of ailments that you don't go see the doctor for generally. It's just ones that just persist and they're kind of irritating. It's the runny nose. It's the post-workout soreness. It's the dry eyes. It's the, high blood pressure, which you do eventually go do. It's the cold hands and feet. It's the drink red wine and get irritable and nosebleeds. And you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So it's and the super sensitive to smells and it's these types of things that in eczema and psoriasis and really bad PMS that, you don't go to the doctor and say, I have bad PMS. Maybe you do, but you just kind of think, oh, I'm just a bad PMS or it's a bad month.
That's the way it is.
Yeah, it's not how it is. You can, my wife used to have horrible PMS, and even my boys, they were little, they just kind of look at me and they already knew that it's, you know, it was coming. And so I started really helping her and focusing on her estrogen metabolism and her detoxification pathways. And now, you know, she still gets a little bit of a swing, but it's not bad at all anymore, which is amazing. So ladies, if you have PMS, you know, you can really do a lot, because I know you don't want to be a monster, and it's no fun. So
yeah. Well, that's exactly what you're saying, is people think that's the way they are. And that's
right.
like, okay, that's who I am. They don't realize you can be better version of yourself, and
Right.
how to optimize yourself and figure out what's off. So what is like the slow versus fast? Like, how do you know if you have this, say, like my red ones were MTRR, MAO. How do you know if they're slow or they're fast? You need to.
Yeah. So, you know, that's when you do a genetic test, you know, like StrateGene, and you get your results back, you're looking at these, first you see the reds and the yellows, and you see the greens or the white boxes, right? So your eyes naturally go to the red ones. You're like, oh crap, what's that? Yeah. And you're like, okay, how do I fix that? Because that's bad. Mm-hmm. So we are now getting away from that. And so here is now your genetic report, and here is your MTHFR. Okay. So you can see there's no red, there's no yellow, and there's green.
It's
there's
like a
speed
dial.
bar.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're the first ones to see that.
All right.
So what this speed bar tells you is that this gene is working more slowly. And look at this individual's folate pathway. All the way down is slow. All the way down. So their ability to produce active forms of folate, pretty slow. So what do you do about it? Well, we tell you. And then you can click on these on a PDF. You can click with your mouse or tap with your finger, I think, on the phone, and tap that, and it will take you down to what to do about it and what it means. So in your case, on your report, which is the old StrateGene, which is current, it sounds weird when I say that. So here is, I think this is my report. So I am like you. So here's the MAO-A gene, and so I'm homozygous as well. So in this individual, i.e. me, my serotonin gets burned through quickly. So a red MAO for the StrateGene test means that gene is working quickly. But that's genetically, that's not epigenetically. So genes work when they have work to do. It's like the keys on your keyboard sit there until we press on them. You and I are not tapping anything right now on our keyboard. They're sitting there. Our genes are just sitting there waiting for input. When the input comes in, they start firing. So when you drink red wine and you have a MAO-A that's fast, you can burn that amines, the tyramines and the histamines pretty quickly and convert them out. So that's useful. And you don't really get the migraine-associated headaches. However, if you have a slower DAO gene for your histamine pathway, you can get headaches from wine, because it's not just one gene. You know, you don't process wine from just one gene. There's multiple genes at hand, which is why, again, you need a pathway to look at this. And I'll tell you, too, I was going to make a supplement for drinking alcohol, and so people can not get hungover. And I did not end up making it because when I read that people who tolerated alcohol better, they have a higher risk of becoming alcoholics because they don't have those side effects. So then I didn't make it.
That's probably good. I know I've done the DNA Fit report, and they have a marker in there that you respond well to alcohol. And I'm always like, is that really good to tell people? Because then it's like, oh, all right, I can drink, and, you know, I can be able to have 2 drinks and not have any problems. But yeah, that's a fine line of some people take it a little serious.
Very fine line. And again, they might be looking at one gene, and alcohol has multiple different genes. So, you know, you can't just be, that's the problem with a lot of genetic reports, is they say, okay, here's this gene, you can do this or you can't do that. But you have to look at the bigger picture. You have to. So it's not as simple and as cut and dry as we really want it to be. So the Super 7, just run through them real quick.
Yeah.
MTHFR is in the folate pathway, and these genes have abbreviations like MTHFR because otherwise there's just a mouthful of words and it doesn't really matter. So just know that I want you to sit back and think, okay, because I know some of you are tuning out because you hear the word gene or genetic or epigenetic, you're like, oh God, this is too heavy. I'm not a scientist. No, it's easy. Genes do jobs. Genes have work to do. That's it. Mm-hmm. So depending on the type of gene, where it is in your body, it has a specific job, or maybe even has a few different jobs. And so the job for the MTHFR is to make your body's main type of folate, which is called methylfolate. You may be familiar with folic acid. You might be supplementing with folic acid, thinking you're doing yourself a favor for not getting anemic and what have you. But just know that folic acid is completely synthetic. It's 100% human-made in the lab, and has no physiological function in the human body at all. Not one of your genes use it for any purpose, period. So it gums up your genetic machinery. But methylfolate is found in foods, especially found in liver, organ meats, leafy green vegetables, and anything green, because folate comes from the word foliage. And MTHFR helps your body make that, which then goes on to support methylation, which helps process your homocysteine. And if your homocysteine markers go up, then you can start making histamine levels. They get higher. And athletes, if you have exercise-induced asthma or post-workout recovery issues, or you have significant redness in the face, your MTHFR gene might be significantly dirty. And there was a woman who posted on my Facebook after I posted about exercise-induced asthma, about how methylfolate can be useful to knock down homocysteine to keep the histamine levels down. And she goes, every time I used to get on the bike at the gym, I go for a 30-minute, hard ride, and people next to me would always freak out because my face would just beat red. Mm. And she said, I have a dirty MTHFR. I was born with a dirty MTHFR. Now I take B12 and methylfolate before I work out. My face isn't red anymore. It's gone. So again, like you said earlier, where you think that, oh, it's just me, I'm just red in the face, you're not optimal. You can fix that.
Mm-hmm. That's with the asthma too. So many people have that exercise-induced asthma. I'm like, it doesn't have to be like that. Just, what's off balance that's causing that to happen.
That's right. And that video is actually, I think I've included that one for free in the back end of StrateGene when we release it, so people can watch my exercise-induced video of what's going on behind there, the mechanisms of it.
Thanks. So I love, it's kind of my holistic method I created 5 years ago after, training with Ben Greenfield and having my chronic fatigue, adrenal exhaustion breakdown, that the holistic method is working on not just our exercise and nutrition, but we have to work on the sleep and stressors and digestion, gut health, hydration, movement. And my favorite is happiness and play and laughing and smiling and gratitude. So important right now. But your genes protocol is kind of similar. Talk about the cleaning your genes and how that works and what we can do with this information, how to apply it.
Yeah. So let me back up before I answer that and remind me if I get too off track and I don't remember where we were. Because when you do a genetic report, let's say you did get your genetic test back, because I brought this up and I didn't finish my thought.
Okay.
So let's talk about that MAO-A gene. You did your dirty MAO-A. It's faster. You say, well, I do drink red wine, and I'm supposed to, my genetics say I can handle it, but I can't. I drink the red wine and I'm flushed. I get red faced and I can't fall asleep and I'm irritable. And sometimes I do get nosebleeds, but my genetics say I'm fine, but I'm not, obviously. So in the book, there's laundry lists.
Oh yeah.
So
that's what I was going to get to.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to get to that point?
Well, that I forgot. That's what I was doing beforehand, then skipped over. But let's go backwards. I missed that part.
Easy to move on, and so many different things to explore.
I know. I got sidetracked.
Yeah. So the laundry list is actually how your genes are acting in real time. So Dirty Genes, I want to throw this out there, is not a book that you curl next to the fire with your dog and your cat on your lap. You can read it once. It's more of a lifestyle guide. It's a book that you pick up routinely throughout your life, and you can check in again and do those quizzes in pencil or photocopy them at some point when I get off my butt. I'm going to make an online quiz and you can keep and store, and you can see how these genes are getting cleaner or dirty throughout, and you can keep track and lifestyle.
Or you have little tabs in them so you know where to go look.
Yeah, because you got to reference it, because your genes move and they're dynamic. You don't have a fast MAO-A 100% of your life. Absolutely not. It's genetically designed that way. But if you're deficient in riboflavin or your aldehydes are high, it's going to be slower. So you need to understand real time, and you can do lab testing too, as I show you in the book. So those are the laundry lists in the book, and those are really, really key for you to reference. And if you want to order specific labs to see if those genes are functioning well, in the back of the book and lab tests in the appendix, you can do that. And so health professionals, I really, really encourage you, this is a book for you as well, that you can use with your patients, and it'll really make your patient care fun. Because when your patient comes in with 20 symptoms, it's really overwhelming. You're like, what the heck do I do? Where do I start? And so the Clean Genes protocol, the soak and scrub method, is what we're now moving to. That's basically the stuff that you already know that you need to do in life, but you're not doing it. And you're not doing it because you don't really know it has huge impact on you. And when you start understanding that your 18,000 genes in your body have jobs to do, if you overwork anyone in your office, or yourself included, your performance goes down. If you overwork any gene by exercising too much, there is a whole myriad of genes that are running out of nutrition for nutrients that help them fire. They're also running out of ingredients or substrate to help them fire. And they're also producing a bunch of other chemicals like hydrogen peroxide, carbon monoxide, or carbon dioxide, formaldehyde. When you exercise, your body's naturally producing these in high amounts, which is then putting a huge burden on other genes like glutathione or superoxide dismutase or NRF2. These genes are really being worked hard, and then they fatigue. And then you start, becoming problems with your sleep and your moods and all that. And it becomes a downward spiral, and you love to train, you love to exercise. So you keep doing it because it's your outlet. You think it's healthy, but it's not, because now you're driving yourself even deeper in the hole, because you're trained, you're taught that it's fine to exercise and it's healthy. So you keep doing it, but you're getting sicker. Yeah. So it's like this vicious cycle until you basically can't get out of bed the next day. And that's the only thing that will stop you from training, because nobody like Debbie is teaching you of what to do. So kudos to you for bringing this up, because it really needs to be taught. So,
well, that's my mission. I feel like it's my purpose. This happened to me. So now it's my mission to help other people learn about this, because a lot of athletes have no clue what they're doing to themselves. And as I keep podcasting about, it happened to me March 2013, but it wasn't just that one day on my bike ride I couldn't pedal another stroke. It was years before that. And that's what I wrote my book, Life is Not a Race, to go back into my history and figure out, okay, what was I doing that was causing these additional stressors, and, doing a couple Ironmans a year, and then off season doing marathons and 50K trail run. And, I did the Chuckanut race up in Bellingham, and then it was suddenly nothing. And people think, they're feeling amazing. They're super fit, superhuman, and they're not. And that's why I'm trying to educate people being fit and healthy versus being fit and unhealthy. So it's really essential to look at your genetics as this. And I was trying to find, what lab tests do you suggest people running to correlate with their genetic StrateGene reports?
It all depends. I would say, that's why we're giving the book Dirty Genes to people when they order StrateGene. I really want people to not take action on their genetics. I want people taking action on how they're feeling.
Yes.
The genetics are showing your susceptibilities, your potential strengths, your potential weaknesses, and sometimes your weaknesses are your strengths, and sometimes your strengths are your weaknesses. So, in the books, Dirty Genes gives you that insight, real time, of how you are feeling. And the Dirty Genes course is an extension of the book. It's not the book. It's an extension of the book of stuff I wanted to talk about, but either it was too sciencey and the publisher didn't say, no, you're not doing that. Or I just ran out of words because the book was already too long and the publisher gave me some grace.
I was going to throw in that if you did what you want to do, your book would be as big as Ben Greenfield's new book. And I was going to post on my Instagram, here's a good weightlifting idea. If you can't figure out how to work out at home, lift this book up. It's like 10 pounds.
That's right. Yeah. God, I can't imagine how much work that went in from Ben.
I know. It's crazy.
Unbelievable. And so well done.
It is. I keep trying to, I just pulled it out because I just finished Dr. Lee No's book, A Mitochondria Function. And so it's like, all right, now I can go into this. But now I want to go back and read this book because your Dirty Genes book, it does change so much. And you really have to be, what we always talk about too, is intuitive and being aware of your red flags and how you feel. But that's a challenge for most people. They don't have a clue how they feel. They're just living outside of their body, not being in tune to inside. But to really get what you're saying in this book, looking at each of those genetic markers, if they're dirty, you have to go through this checklist and kind of go, okay, do I have that? And what's going on? And you do have to be aware with your own self.
That's the number one thing. You know, when you're red in the face, you just think you're red in the face. And you're going to be red in the face sometimes. And when you're really, really exerting, or you're going for a new max or what have you, you know, it's going to happen. But how long you're red in the face can vary. So you want to be red in the face, you know, when you're exerting, and that's fine. You're getting more blood flow in there. But you want it to dissipate. You know, you want it to go away within just a couple minutes, a few minutes.
Yeah.
If it's sticking around for an hour or two, that's not right. And so when you're training and you're exercising, you walk around in the gym and you now have this new awareness and you start making some changes, maybe you cut the wine from last night, because wine will increase your histamine, it will decrease your quality of sleep. If you decrease the quality of your sleep, your histamine will also go up. Alcohol's intake will also stress your detoxification enzymes down, you know, so they'll become slower. So now your estrogen levels will go up a bit. If your estrogen levels go up a bit, you're also secreting more histamine, and you're also depleting your vitamin C, because now the alcohol was in there and you needed to do that, and you know, you need to get rid of the alcohol, and your vitamin C stocks went down. And so, you know, now you're secreting more mast cells from your genes or from your cells, because the vitamin C is lower. So you can see how this is all multifactorial.
Yeah.
When you're walking through the gym and there's mirrors everywhere, as you're walking through the gym, or you're, you know, have a mirror for your bike or whatever you're doing, you know, you can look at your hands, even if you're a runner or a cyclist, what have you, or you can take your hand and you can scratch yourself. Now, I just scratched myself really hard. Like, that's hard. And you want to see if there's really raised red lines, and I've got nothing. Okay, it's called dermatographia, I believe it's called. And yeah, I'm kind of hairy like an ape, but you know, it's not. If
that's a histamine test, right?
What's that?
That's a histamine test.
A histamine test. Yeah, I can see now I'm getting a little red there.
Yeah.
But barely. Now, if you have really high histamine, you'll have raised skin, and those lines will stay there. And you could actually draw little pictures, and that's really, really high histamine. So like you said, I want you to be not only intuitive, because you do need to tune in, because you are so focused on the outward world, because we have eyes that see out, not in. So now you need to think about what is going on, and then look with your eyes back at yourself, or you know, look at that red face, for an example, or the post-workout soreness. And now with the tools from Dirty Genes in the book, you're like, okay, my post-workout soreness, this is like the 4th day now, and it's getting worse, and it's, you know, preventing me from going harder. So yeah, I'm now going to supplement with some Pqq. I'm going to alter my training a little bit. I have been drinking water. I haven't been using my electrolytes, because I did learn that hydration is not just drinking water. Hydration is getting water in my cells. Yeah. And that's a huge one.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a lot at play here, and you know, I know Debbie and I have gone many twists and turns with you, but the book does explain it quite well in a progressive manner.
So let's finish up. We have like 10 more minutes. So I want to touch a little bit on how to clean your genes, if anything. And it's a lot of the questions people have, of course, now. It's intermittent fasting, time-restricted eating, keto, carnivore, and getting our nutrients from nutrient-dense food. So what's your take in how to clean our genes, and with the fasting and low-carb world out there? What's your philosophy?
Okay. Well, know that eating is work. Okay, you got to always try to distill it down into something really, really simple. I've had some really negative reviews on the book, because people say, oh, you really overly distilled it and oversimplified it. Yeah, I have oversimplified it. You're right. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, does oversimplification still work? Is it still applicable? And do people get results from it? If the answer is yes, you've actually helped them. If the answer is no, I've oversimplified it. So when you oversimplify something, that's bad. Simplifying is good if it leads to action and you get results. So Dirty Genes it's right on that borderline. It's easy, but it's still not oversimplified. So in terms of dietary things, food in consumption is work to do. You need to produce stomach acid. You need to produce digestive enzymes. You need to detoxify the chemicals that you're consuming with it. You need to absorb the nutrients. You need to get rid of the constituents from some of the plants that might not be working very well. Your microbiome is working and generating a huge amount of water-soluble vitamins or other types of compounds of hydrogen sulfide, nitrate, methane, and so on. Your body has to process all of that. You have to, maintain hydration. So it's a workload. So if you are over-consuming protein is very, very useful, but you have to understand that protein is a nitrogen-based compound that produces a huge amounts of ammonia. So if you're a weightlifter and you're chowing down on paleo or GAPS or carnivore and you're eating too much, there's something called nitrogen balance. And if the nitrogen balance is out of whack, then you're going to get headaches and fatigue and brain fog. Sorry, that was my kids. Boys, stop it, please. And so you need to be increasing acetyl L-carnitine or alpha-ketoglutarate or ornithine or citrulline. I'm not really a fan of arginine for various reasons. You'll learn that in the book. I know a lot of athletes use arginine, and that's okay if your genes are clean. If they're not clean, it's a problem. Basically with diet, you have to tune in and be intuitive. So let me give you a real life example to make it simple. My wife will say, hey, I'm going to make fish tonight. How's that sound? I check in with myself. That sounds great. Literally, I check in and I think, okay, fish, protein, histamine, and then I don't really think about taste so much. I think about the food components of that particular food, the nutrient components of that food. Did I already eat a bunch of protein in the morning and in the afternoon, and did I not exercise much? And if I did not eat much, or if I did not exercise very much that day, or I did sauna, I ate quite a bit of protein in the morning and at lunch, I'd say, no, I'm just going to have a salad tonight. Because I know from my laundry list that I have a slow COMT, a dirty DAO, and a dirty slow MAOA, that if I eat more protein tonight, I'm probably going to have difficulty falling asleep. I'll be more alert. So, or on the flip side, if I'm feeling already kind of tired, like a midday afternoon meal, if I'm already getting tired, my breakfast was very light, or maybe I didn't even eat yet because I'm intermittent time restricted feeding kind of thing. I only eat when I'm hungry. I don't eat because it's 8 o'clock and I need to have breakfast when I'm hungry. So that in intermittent fasting, I know, or time restricted feeding, I'm going to eat at 6. I'm going to stop eating at 5. I would say you need to remove the rigidity because your body is not on a clock. I mean, there is a huge amount of circadian rhythm and clock influence. There are genes called clock genes. So there are clocks involved here, but it all depends on your environment and what you're doing and within that environment. So I want you being more malleable versus more rigid. I know some of you are like, I got to train at 5:10. I have a meeting at 5:57. Some of you are crazy. The other ones are like, oh, whatever. So you need to be more in the middle on both of those spectrums. So I really want you to, tune in. Are you hungry right now? If you're not, don't eat. If you're in time restricted feeding or doing intermittent fasting, and you're feeling weak and you're feeling hungry, and you're in a competition and you got to make 6:00 p.m. to make it for 48 hours, don't do that. You're going to weaken yourself. Eat. It's okay.
I think that's what I keep telling people, listen to your body and eat when you're hungry. Because I think so many people, typical type A competitive athletes, driven individuals, athletes or not, they tend to override those signals when they do need to eat. And a lot of people are doing those 3-day fasting challenges and, the 24-hour fasting. And I think a lot of times you have to look at, is it good for me to do that right now if I already have a lot of stress in my life, if my training load's heavy that day and I'm eating too low of calories? So, because a lot of times I was just doing a podcast that, you're eating more protein and fat. If you're eating right for your metabolic type, I'm feeling full and satiated, but then you end up, oh, that was one meal a day. Is that too low calories for someone that's exercising twice a day? And so I think it's going to the individuality part of it, but listening to your body, knowing, you're not the same as the other person, and everyone's genetics are different.
And you're not the same as you were yesterday, and you have to really understand that. And your genes are not the same. There's different influences, there's different things going on. Like this whole coronavirus thing, it's a whole new environment for you right now. There's this little bit of scatteredness going on. Your structure is gone. The kids are home during quiet time. You're not used to that. So I didn't tell the kids to be quiet. So now it's a new variable, but you have to adapt.
Yeah.
I also want to say that there's some days where I'm carnivore. There's some days where I just fast. There's some days where I'm keto. There's some days where I'm Mediterranean. There's some days where I'm kind of a mix of all of it. There is, I don't think there's any right, absolute, lifestyle unless there's a permanent belief or philosophy behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, if you're a vegan or vegetarian, I totally respect and admire the philosophy behind that 100%. I also know that it's a very, very, very difficult lifestyle to maintain. Elephants are big and nimble animals and fast and healthy and live a long time, and they're vegetarians. As far as I know, I'm not an elephantologist, but they get by just fine on vegetables and grass and whatever. But just be mindful, especially ladies out there, if you are working on your fertility or you're breastfeeding or you're pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Some exercise is great.
Mm-hmm.
Overdoing it, you're going to have one hell of a time getting fertile or pregnant or producing enough milk.
I never had children, so wonder why.
Yeah.
I tell people that, and I wrote that in my book. I never could get pregnant. And you look back, it's like, okay, and I didn't get my period for periods of time. Like, oh, that's great. It's in season. I'm racing. I don't want to have that cycle. So I think, it's really important for female athletes to work on their health and looking at all this information that you have in your StrateGene program in the book and getting the right supplements. So you have seekinghealth.com.
Yeah.
And people can learn more StrateGene there, and then they can figure out, based on all that information, what supplements they need to stimulate or support and replace what's missing in their body.
Yeah. And supplement is we use the term supplement flippantly. It's easy. It's like, oh, calm down when you're stressed out, or don't stress out, or reduce stress. It's like, oh, sure. Supplement is defined as to add to or enhance.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to add to or enhance not only your fitness or your exercise or your routine but also your lifestyle, your well-being, your health. Our motto at Seeking Health is optimizing life. And, in our bottles, we have written across the top, targeted support. And we're really trying to target people or target specific parts of your, genetics or your pathways in your body to support those things. So for athletes, I really, really recommend the optimal electrolyte. Hands down.
Mm-hmm.
The orange or the seltzer are my two favorites. Berry, for some reason I don't tolerate the berry. It's probably because berries have natural amines in them, and I don't feel good from tyramines or histamines. So athletes, I would not be using the optimal electrolyte berry. I'd be using the orange or the seltzer. We are coming out with a lemonade, which is really phenomenal. That's going to be my favorite one. And then the Pqq Lozenge would be my next one for post-workout soreness. If you're an individual who's training and your post-workout soreness is inhibiting your performance, try Pqq prior to training, and it can really, really help you out. And it's a lozenge. It's like this little blue pill, and it's a microbial ferment. So for some reason, when the Pqq, it's a natural product, the bacteria make, and so that's how we make it. But it can color your mouth blue. So just put it back in your mouth, pop it in your mouth. You can swallow it whole. You'll still get total benefit. Or you can just chew it 2 or 3 times in your molars. Let it sit there for a second or two, and you'll literally feel your head clear within a few seconds. I'm not kidding. And then you swallow it. Those are the top 2, and then a really good multivitamin alongside. And then there's other things for support too, for like distance runners, the NADH plus CoQ10. That's actually allowed by sport. So endurance athletes of any type, of rowers, runners, swimmers, kayakers, paddlers, what have you. This cyclist, the NADH plus CoQ10 can be a game changer for you. Because a lot of you use those glucose gel packs to get you the glucose so you can get into your Krebs cycle to make more NADH, listen to me, to get into burn. But the glucose makes NADH. If you just take the NADH plus the CoQ10, which is a complex 1 of your mitochondria. So the first step of your mitochondria, you use both NADH and CoQ10. And you take that in a lozenge form, you pop it in your mouth, or you chew it and swallow it. You will have this burst of energy. It's ridiculous, but only use that when you are not eating. Because when you eat food, you're making NADH. So if you ate breakfast prior to exercise, which I don't recommend, but unless you need to, but generally speaking, best not to, but everyone's different. But do not use NADH plus CoQ10 with about an hour or so of food because it'll make you tired. So,
Yeah,
but
I think most of our people do fasted workouts in the mornings.
Yeah, so NADH plus CoQ10 will break your fast. So know that. So if you're wanting to train to burn fat, do not take the NADH plus CoQ10 because it'll disturb your fasting.
So it will take you out of fat burning by taking that?
I haven't done research on it, but I would suspect yes, because fat burning is more NAD, and NADH is more made in the glucose pathway. So NADH is made in glucose pathway, actually. So when you look at the Krebs cycle, you'll see NADH is being made there along with FADH2, which then feed into your mitochondria. So that will probably take you out of I don't know if it'll take you out of ketosis or fat burning, but it will definitely, you'll feel super energized. So it's a really good question, but I can't answer.
I really want to get the continuous glucose monitor and do a little study because I am focused on improving my running with my mitochondria optimization. So I've been, looking at all these supplements and what Dr. Sarah Myhill talks about and the mitochondria cocktail and all these, D-ribose and all that. But then if you take that before a workout, are you still burning fat or is it going to cause you to spike up your blood sugar? So it'd be interesting.
Yeah, that's true. And then not only that, but are you gonna lose the benefits of exercise? So, the oxidative environment of exercise is what helps you gain more endurance because you build more mitochondria. So you do have resveratrol to help with your mitochondria and what have you. And there's other things as well, which I'm not familiar with. Again, if you struggle with the post-workout soreness, the Pqq can just, I
keep reading about that. So you guys have, it's a throat lozenger kind of thing.
Yeah. And my wife does not tune into her body. She just can't. In fact, we were just at the doctor's today getting some injection therapy for her. And the doctor asked her about tuning in. She's like, I can't. Some people just don't. And that's okay. And she came in years ago in the office, kind of limping after yoga or a hike or biking. I can't remember what it was. And I was like, really, you're sore again? And it's kind of an ongoing thing with her. Because she's had a history of rheumatoid arthritis since she was 17. She's now in her 40s. She's doing really well. She's on no meds or what have you. It's just the aftermath of that. So I threw her a sample of our Pqq Lozenge. It wasn't out yet. And I said, here, try this. She goes, what's that do? And I said, I don't know. I really didn't know. And it's like, you tried new things on the 3S, fools, friends, and family. And so she's okay. And she sucked on it and dissolved it or chewed it, I remember. And she walked away, limped away, and came in my office 10 minutes later. She goes, I'm like 80% better.
Wow.
I was like, get out. What do you mean? And so she has that in her car. She has it in her bedrooms, in her bathroom. It's in the kitchen. It's in her office. She has bottles of that stuff all over the place. And I shared that with the doctor today because I asked Nadia again, I said, when do you take it, before or after? She goes, now I take it before, sometimes after as well, but she takes it before.
Huh. All right, I'll put all that in the show notes for the links for the products so people can learn more about them. So it's pretty cool because I'm all about mitochondria function and my genetics right now, and my test is running because my heart rate, my body fatigues really quickly running, and that's my test to try out different things to see what's going on. Or the Oura Ring.
Do you use it?
I don't have one. I was going to buy it a couple times and I still haven't. You think that helps recovery, HRV?
It helps you understand how your training is going, and if you should train, how hard should you train. So, sometimes I learn a lot from Alessandro Ferretti. He's the one who hooked me up with Oura Ring. And he's really into tracking, and he's been tracking for years. But yeah, it shows your HRV, it doesn't show your glucose, but you can, do your continuous glucose meter. But it shows your body temperature, shows your heart rate in the evening. And so if your heart rate, really plummets like this, and then it stays nice and low, if your lowest heart rate is early in the evening, you're well recovered. If your heart rate is lowest very late in the evening, like 5 a.m, then you are not well recovered. So just seeing that graph of where your lowest heart rate occurred is very, very good information. And then the Oura Ring will give you a score the next morning of where you are. So I recommend you become an affiliate for them so your followers can get $50 off the Oura Ring purchases, which is significant.
They're good. Good investment. I was getting it for Christmas a couple years ago, and then my husband's like, I won't wear it. And then you're thinking having that on your finger all the time, if it gets annoying, and sleeping with it.
It is a problem when you lift weights. When you have a straight bar and you're doing pull-ups. Pull-ups are okay, but I was a rower for a long time in college, and I don't like things on my fingers, but I do like the Oura Ring. But I played soccer too, and I'd take it off. If I hit somebody in the face, I wouldn't hurt them. So for working out, at times, depending on your workout, it can be a problem. But cycling, endurance, running, swimming, you can swim with it. It's waterproof. I do really recommend it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, put that in my notes. Remind myself to do it. Well, thank you so much for all this information. I hope everyone goes and picks up their Dirty Genes book, or you'll get it when you do the StrateGene report, right? And get the information. I think, getting a health coach, an FDN practitioner, or nutritional therapist to work with you as well to go through all this, I think it helps in, correlating with all your other data. If you do some other lab testing, as I've done the Dutch Complete test, and really makes sense, more of it, putting all this together. I would say putting missing pieces of a puzzle together, and it's being a health detective and help figure out how to really optimize your health by taking all these tools and all this data we can collect is just really cool, kind of biohacking-ish, but also people who just aren't feeling good, and you're struggling, don't think it's the new normal and that's the way you are, and blame the aging process, because it's not true. You can't feel better.
And I would, the term biohacking puts a little hair on my back a little bit, because it seems like we're trying to trick the body into performing for us. I would call it more bio-nurturing.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Because if you know how your genes, your genes want, and what tools they need, and what things that they don't want, if you know all that information, you're not hacking the system, you're nurturing the system.
Very good.
The problem is we don't know what our genes want, because you don't even think about your genes. You just take them for granted. That's the problem, because they're inside of us. You can't see them. and they're just performing without us even saying anything. So it's our job to provide them the fuel and the nutrients, and the positive mental framework.
Yeah.
And the gratitude that you mentioned earlier. Because if you're at a training or a race and you're at the starting line and you're all freaked out because someone next to you looks fitter, faster, and stronger than you, versus you thinking, oh, I've got this. I've been training hard. The butterflies in my gut right now. I'm just excited. I'm not scared. I'm excited. That mindset is super important for performance. And I also want to plug this book, Why We Sleep. Mm. Very, very important. You can get it on Audible. It's a great book to listen to. Some books aren't, like Dirty Genes it's a good book to listen to, but if you do listen to it, I think you should get the paperback or hardback in addition to it. Because the Audible,
write notes all over and highlight your book.
Yeah, and it's a reference book.
Yeah.
And Why We Sleep is he talks a lot about athletes, and if you're a high level athlete, you will glean a ton from his book.
Who wrote that? I don't know
his name. I'm really bad at actors' names and movie names and authors.
That's all right. I have The Sleep Revolution by Ariana Huffington. That's about it.
Yeah. Talk about fatigue. She got so tired, fell down at work and hit her head.
Yeah.
Knocked some sense into her.
Yeah.
But Why We Sleep by a sleep researcher. And I don't want to go, we've already gone a long time, but great stories in there, and very, very passionate about his field, and very applicable, very, very applicable, and your performance will go way up.
Good. Thank you. All right, guys. Of course, I knew this would go long, so sorry to hold you up, but go play with your kids and get outside. And hopefully everyone stays well during this crazy time in our world. And really, I keep saying and trying to do more podcasts about how really to optimize your health by taking care of yourself now with your lifestyle habits and, reducing chronic stress, because more is not better, and finding happiness, enjoying each day. Like we're in the Seattle area, it's beautiful blue sky, sunshine, and playing and doing things you're having to be able to do. Take advantage of that time if you're stuck at home a little more often. And I was saying how it's perfect to be fat adapted and intermittent fasting if people are trying not to eat as much and they don't have the money coming in. It's great because you only eat one meal a day, you save money.
Less work for your genes.
Yeah, except for I went for my run walk today and I did see a big line at McDonald's. I'm like, come on, people.
Wow.
Come to McDonald's.
Wow.
That was sad. So anyways, I could keep on talking to you, but we'll get your information out there and let us know when the StrateGene new program, is it going to come out maybe in May, or do you have a?
Earlier, I'd imagine. Yeah, I think it'll come out in April. If this whole thing dies down, my team at Seeking Health just slammed, but I believe April would be good.
Okay, good. April 2020. So thank you so much, Dr. Lynch, and we'll put everything in the show notes, guys. Enjoy reading the book too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at debbiepotts.net. You can help us to continue to grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.